pushed record on that. Oh. Get yourself.
Everything is fine. I was just like afraid it was going to like chip my tooth.
I don't want to talk about my tooth.
Please. Okay. Hello, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
And welcome back to
Remember Harry Potter. That's the first time we've done it together.
I know. We forgot how to do it, but we remembered.
It's hard because that's a different name.
Mm-hmm.
My muscle memory is like, remember... And then, I die.
Yeah.
So,
my name is Emily. Congratulations.
My name is Maren.
And today we are not talking about Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone specifically, but we're going to be talking about Vernon and Petunia.
The Dursleys.
Those Dursleys. Before we get into that, we want to address something with everybody. And this is coming out a little bit after what we're talking specifically about has happened, but we think it's very important to mention. And that is just what J.K. Rowling has been up to on Twitter.
Just all the screaming and idiocy that's coming out of her fingers and into the internet.
Yeah, it's very, very weird that we have this wonderful series which is about accepting people no matter what.
About inclusivity.
And love, and, you know, it's a beautiful series. And then to, unfortunately, have to divorce the author because they are speaking hate and negativity, and
yes,
it's really gross. It feels really gross to us.
I hate it. Goodbye to her.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be perfectly clear so that nobody is confused. We are allies of the LGBTQ plus community. Unequivocally allies. We are anti-trans. We hate transphobia. We love everybody who wants to be here. We do not exclude. We do not erase your identity.
No.
I believe you. I believe what you say you are. I believe who you say you are. I believe that that's who you are. So please know that we accept you. We love you. We are your allies. No matter what.
No matter what.
We will not change that.
Nope.
You are safe here. We're your moms now. Welcome.
Yes, all the little babies. You're ours now. Sorry.
This is where you belong. Here. Not there. Not where it feels yucky and where you're confused and you feel like you don't belong.
Yeah, I'm so sorry that she has made you feel outcast and not worthy.
It's wrong.
All of that, but...
It's wrong. She's wrong.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry.
Yep.
I'm here for you. I am. 100%.
Yes. And
speaking of horrible people.
Speaking of people being very Dursley-ish, we're going to get into the Dursleys today. I'm really, really sorry about it. I know we've already talked about them for 2 chapters, but we don't really have to spend too much more time with them in the book, and so we felt like we may as well do them first, get them done with and out of the way, especially because they really don't have any character... what am I trying to say? Traits.
Other than evil?
Basically. And they don't change. Like, they don't progress. They don't get better.
They don't. Dudley.
Dudley takes him a while. We'll get to Dudley next week.
It literally takes him until he's an adult. Which, you know what, that happens to a lot of people, is that they spend their whole lives being told a certain thing, and then when they finally realize it was wrong, they change.
Yeah. Thank God. Some people change.
Yep.
So I want to start off with Petunia, specifically.
Okay.
Nope. Oh, this is like a whole bunch of pages of notes from the last chapter that we didn't even touch on.
We should
I forgot that I went through and
let's
did
do them
specifics
here.
on characters.
I love that.
Okay, so starting with Petunia, I find it super, super annoying that we spend more time with Vernon than we do Petunia, especially because it's because of Petunia that Harry is living with the Dursleys in the first place.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting because we don't learn anything about Petunia until the end of the series.
Yeah.
But it's her. She's the whole reason that Harry is there.
Yeah. Let's see. We talked about some of this. There's a line that she says in this first book when Harry expresses that, I could probably stay home while you guys go out to the zoo. And she says, and come back and find the house in ruins.
Oh, and see, you're so smart. So you've touched on how that's what happened to not Petunia's house, but
no, her sister.
Her sister.
That is exactly what happened to the Potter's house. Is it?
Literally ruined.
Exploded.
It did explode.
And
I didn't even think about that when we read through that.
I'm just so happy in this moment that Harry doesn't know what happened, because that would just
that'd be
such a trigger for him.
I mean, because that is what happened to his house. It got completely exploded. And so they're worried that somehow their house is going to get exploded because somehow it was Harry's fault. They don't understand.
No.
Oh, gross.
And in this letter that Dumbledore has left, he told them what happened. Voldemort came because of Harry and tried to kill Harry and ruined their house. And, of course, killed them should be the thing that you're paying attention to.
No.
But now Petunia just has this underlying fear that because Harry's here, bad things happen.
Wow. Emily. Good stuff.
And really, this is pretty much all we actually see from Petunia in this chapter, other than, of course, her being like, Dudley, I'll buy you more presents. Everything else is Vernon.
Yeah.
As far as the parenting goes. So Mr. Dursley, I don't know how you could be more abusive than him. He comes in telling Harry to brush his hair and praises Dudley for throwing a fit and not being grateful for a million presents that he has. He treats Harry like a dog, like I said in the past episode. He won't even entertain the idea that Harry can be left in his new car by himself. And he thinks that threatening just 6 months of being alone is a normal, casual thing for Harry.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a man who, he is punitive. He's authoritarian. He's evil. He's evil, and he is raising his son to be just exactly the same as him. This is somebody who has been raised in the old world of white men rule with an iron fist. And if everybody doesn't do exactly what they say, they are not only wrong, but they will be punished severely.
And we obviously are going through this huge movement right now of Black Lives Matter, which we are very supportive of, of course.
Absolutely.
But it's really interesting. We've been watching Outlander a lot. We'll probably talk a lot about during the episodes. But even seeing 200 years ago, it was almost just as hard to make a difference, even being a good person, than it is today.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
We will, something will happen in that show, and I'll just look to Emily and I'll be like, imagine if that was happening now. Oh, wait, it is still happening.
Yeah.
It is still a white man's world ruling with an iron fist, and absolutely punitive and authoritarian, and it's disgusting, and it needs to change.
Yep.
It's not working. It never worked.
No.
It still isn't. Vernon is the type of person who holds on to it so tightly and just refuses to let go. And I would like to say goodbye to all of those men in some way or another.
100%. So, coming into the story right now, there are 10 years of story that we just skipped past. Which, if you have listened to Remember Twilight, you know we love to speculate about things outside of the actual page and what's happening. And so we know, of course, or at least are beginning to get to know a lot of what was going on during the time with the kids. But I cannot, for some reason, feel like it was always this way.
Well,
before Harry gets dropped off, Vernon knows to not bring up the Potters.
Sure.
Because it'll make Petunia angry. Petunia, of course, always wanted a family. Family is very important to her. And I just have a really hard time believing that when Harry got dropped off at her porch, of course she was mad at Lily, but I feel like it's because Vernon was expecting her not to want this child, that she had to continue playing that role.
Do you think she just had to live up to her, his expectation of her?
Yeah.
She didn't want to disappoint him. Do you think she wanted Harry?
I don't think that she wanted Harry, but I can't for some reason, I just feel like any mother can't just see another baby and be like, we can put it in the closet. That's fine.
Do you think she did nurture him? I mean, he talks about how he has gone on errands with her and he spends time with her. And to me, initially I'm like, well, that's just because she doesn't want to leave him home. She wants to have an eye on him constantly so that he's not doing something scary or doing something magical. Because, she knows. I mean, you know that she knows. She grew up with Lily, jealous of Lily, sad about Lily her whole life. So she knows. She's got to know that Harry is magical. That these weird things that happen to him, she puts them out of her mind because she knows that they are magical things. Like when that sweater shrunk and shrunk and shrunk, and she pretended to just be like, well, I don't know what happened. No, she knew what happened.
Yeah.
Do you think she nurtured him and loved him
until the first time something magical happened? I feel like she must have somewhere deep down inside hoped that he would be normal, and every day that went by that something didn't happen, I feel like she must have gotten a little bit more loving towards him. And I wonder at what point did they go from like crib to cupboard? Because I can't believe they would leave a 1-year-old in a cupboard by itself.
Yeah. Maybe.
I just don't want to. So I'm really hoping that deep down inside, somewhere in these 10 years, Petunia must have been a tiny bit of a good person.
Well, and of course, so here's the thing. She taught him how to cook, but it's so that he could cook for her. She taught him how to clean so that he could clean. You know, I mean, so she did motherly type of things, but not out of like love and trying to help him be a better person, but just so that she could make him into a slave.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I know these are things that I'm never gonna have answers to, but I
you
have
gotta
to believe so that I don't just absolutely scream.
Gotta hold on to it
forever
somehow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then going back, I just want to touch on Harry's glasses again, because
his little broken glasses.
His broken glasses. It's so surprising to me that Harry ever got glasses in the first place.
Really?
That must have been a teacher.
Yeah, that had to have been like a school. Of course, at schools, I know that a school does a hearing test. They do. Schools do. That's one of the important things that public education does for kids, is that they do hearing tests, they do eye exams, they do lice tests, they do like public health things at school, and they are very important. So I guarantee he got an eye exam at school. Of course, though, as a parent and as a custodian, as his guardian, she has to, well, I guess she doesn't have to, but I think that their national health services would demand that she do well care visits. So he's got to go to the doctor every year to get his checkup.
I hope so. I really hope so, because
is she not taking him to checkups? I mean, like,
barely
I don't have
him.
to like here in America, it's not mandated. You don't have to have your kid have a checkup. But if you don't, people can report you and be like, this person is not taking care of their kid, whatever. I mean, I have my own thoughts about that. But I wonder if she wasn't taking him to checkups, if she was just letting the schools do everything. A lot of people do.
I mean, I can see that, especially because Harry has broken glasses forever.
Yeah, they're broken for who knows how long. Who knows if they don't even work very well, if he's still super blind and wearing them anyway.
Yeah.
And they're just government, what is the word I'm looking for? Government supplied,
issued,
government issued glasses.
Yeah,
he's just wearing the
ugly glasses.
Yes, the glasses that everybody gets.
Yeah. And I mean, as far as we know, even once Harry starts going to Hogwarts, he never gets new glasses. He never talks about how he finally got new glasses. It's just that Hermione fixed them so they weren't broken anymore.
However, I bet you anything that McGonagall was like, here, let's take a look at those and see if they're still working for you. And I bet she helped him.
Yeah, I'm sure she did.
There's a lot of things that he doesn't talk about. He doesn't talk about other people's birthdays. He doesn't talk about things like that. Things like going to the doctor. But I bet you Pomfrey, Madame Pomfrey, while she's helping him, she's like, let's also take a look at your prescription and see how these glasses are working for you.
Yeah, I love that, because Harry talks about his glasses all the time.
Well, he can't see without them. He's
Nope.
always talking about how he has to grab them in the morning and put them on, and if he loses them, he just can't see. It's miserable. So I guarantee that at least Madame Pomfrey and McGonagall were taking care of his eyesight.
Yeah.
I have to believe that.
Yeah. Going back to those 10 years in between, obviously we talk a lot about how no good wizards ever came and checked in on Harry while he was at the Dursleys. Do you think any bad wizards ever tried to find where he was?
Okay, so that's what Mark was saying last night. It was like, Mark and I almost had a fight about Dumbledore last night. Because we're nerds, and we don't fight about anything except fictional characters.
Yeah.
But, so, I was like, he never sent anybody to check in, freaking out. And he goes, well, yeah, but he was being safe from all the bad guys. And I'm like, how do you know? He could have been safe at Hogwarts. He could have been safe anywhere else. You know, so we're like screaming about Harry Potter. And I was like, I don't know that the bad wizards were doing anything at all. I think they were all cowardly, hiding in their houses with their lights turned off, you know, not going out and not doing anything because they were scared, because their Dark Lord is gone, but you know that they're like, is he really gone? Are we, you know? So no, I don't think that they were looking for him. I think that they thought he died or something. You know what I mean? Like, I think that they were like, no, we are safe in our evil world, doing gross things. And
interesting.
I really don't think they were looking for him. I think that that's one of the things that makes it okay for him to be hidden, even though he could have been hidden in a better place. But he was hidden, and so nobody knew where he was. None of the good wizards and none of the bad wizards. However, now that's another thing that brings me to Mrs. Fig. She knew where he was. She was talking to Dumbledore. He was like, you gotta stay here, you gotta live here so that you can take care of this little baby.
Yep.
And she's like, okay. I'll just, whatever Dumbledore says, I'll do, which is also a problem, so.
Yeah. I just like to have, like, this, I don't like it. I have this headcanon that weird things would sometimes happen at Privet Drive that were the Death Eaters, and that Vernon and Petunia then blamed on Harry.
Maybe.
And that added to
Cool.
their hatred of him.
I just don't think they knew he was there. I think the spell was powerful enough to keep them away.
But it only is supposed to protect Harry from Voldemort. It's only the attempted murderer that it protects you from. So all these Death Eaters.
Cool.
I don't know. Were they strolling up to Privet Drive?
Maybe.
To touch on just like the squishing the magic out of Harry, of course, Petunia grew up with Lily Potter. Well, not Lily Evans. And Petunia has to know that Lily couldn't stop doing these magic things when they were little. There was no way she could control it.
No, in fact, I mean, we learn that, and I'm not sure if this is book, because I can't remember, or movie. I know it's movie. But we learn that every time Lily did anything, Petunia would freak out. Petunia was just like, you're a freak, stop it, like, ugh, you know, out of like anger or jealousy or whatever it was. We also learned that the Evans parents were not upset about it. It was just Petunia. It was just Petunia who had a problem with this. The Evans were like proud of her. They were like, oh, absolutely, go to the school. That was another thing that led to Petunia being so angry about it. So yeah.
I just... It's so gross that Petunia knows for a fact you cannot squish the magic out of someone, and yet they continue to do it over and over again.
I mean, that is classic, like, you can't... Hold on a sec, I don't know if this is... do we want to say things like, you can't squish the gay out, or something like that?
It's very parallel to that.
You cannot force somebody to be who they are not. And you can't take things that are central to your core away from people just because you don't like it. Like, it's there.
Yeah, I mean, Harry is literally in a closet. They literally try to closet his magic away and hide it.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, no, I think that's very similar. I know we're talking about Petunia and Vernon, but of course I'm bringing up Dumbledore.
That's okay. Bring him up.
So
let's talk about it. Let's let the elephant run around for a little while.
Perfect. There's one aspect that I want to bring up. And that is that if Dumbledore had done any kind of welfare check in on Harry, and obviously Mrs. Fig doesn't actually go to the house to see any of this, she just has Harry at her house, he would have pulled him out immediately. Because the biggest regret in Dumbledore's life is about his sister. And his sister, a lot of us have guessed that she might be an Obscurus, which is from Fantastic Beasts, if you're not familiar with that. But regardless of whether or not that specific fact is true, Ariana Dumbledore was assaulted by 3 Muggle boys because they saw her doing magic. And so she tried to never ever do magic again. She tried so hard, she focused on it so hard that her magic turned inward and would explode out of her at times that she couldn't control.
Right.
Which, to put a magical child in a place where they're are constantly allowed. Needing to try to suppress their magic is so dangerous.
The interesting thing, though, is that Harry had no idea that it was magic. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And just, like, having that headspace of, like, well, I don't know why these things happen to me. I don't know why these things happen, but sometimes they do. But not knowing that it's magic can be a different headspace. Mm-hmm. So he's not concealing it, and he's not, like, purposefully trying to control it. He doesn't know either way.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, that's a good point,
but the Dursleys do spend an awful lot of time telling him to not be weird. Mm-hmm. So that can have a lot of effect on a child when the adult is constantly being like, stop being weird, and you're like, I'm not weird.
Yeah. Yeah. So things that baby Harry had to learn as a child are not okay.
Oh no.
No hugging.
Oh.
Don't ask questions. Don't come to me when you're scared. You're not going to be praised when you do something good, even if Dudley does the same thing and we put it on the fridge because we're so proud of him. He can't call them mom and dad. How many times do you think he accidentally went up and said, hey mom, can you...
Especially blah, blah, blah? As a baby. Mm-hmm. Like, I know that, like, I used to work in an elementary school, and kids would call me mom all the time. Mm-hmm. Even I worked at a junior high, and kids would call me mom on accident. Yeah. So, yeah, I bet a lot.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it breaks my heart thinking of Harry and just...
And me too.
Everything he had to go through, and especially because he now knows that he can't trust any adults, and he really can't trust any other kids either. He has to be completely self-sufficient and do everything himself. And even if he does something good or bad, it doesn't matter. He's going to be punished for it. So he kind of just does what he wants.
Yeah.
And Snape blames this behavior on being the son of James Potter, when in reality it's because he was raised this way by the Dursleys.
Yeah, James would have taught Harry to be funny and silly and do things, but Lily would have taught Harry to be respectful and kind and loving and accepting. Mm-hmm. You're completely right about Snape blaming it on James. Harry didn't know James. Mm-hmm. He had no idea. He was taught this through sheer hard knocks. Like, he didn't have a choice. He had to do this. I love that you say, like, he just does whatever he wants because he's going to get in trouble no matter what he does. Like, that just comes to truth when we see him at Hogwarts. Like, he sees the Remember All got thrown away. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about this later, but he immediately goes to, like, help Neville because he's like, ugh.
I'm not going to ask the teacher to help because they're not going to, so I'm going to help him.
Yeah, so he goes to help. And he doesn't know that he's supposed to be in trouble for that, but he's like, well, I know I wasn't supposed to be flying, but whatever, I had to do what I had to do. And then you know, he's just he always does it. He always does what he has to do.
Yep.
What has to be done in his mind. And he does he tries to do everything alone. I mean, the amount of times that he tells that he's like, I have to go do this thing, and his friends are like, okay, we'll come, and he's like, no, and they're like, yeah, like, that's just pure, like, I have to do this by myself. We see the same thing with Bella all the time in Twilight.
Yep.
Where she spent an entire life from birth having to do everything for herself and everything for everyone else. And so by the time she's 17 years old and she has to make her own decisions, she hates accepting help from everybody. Same character.
It's interesting that you bring up Bella, because she kind of has the abuse that both Harry and Dudley have combined into one person.
Oh, that is interesting.
Because she was never physically abused or anything like that, and yet she has this self-sufficiency in her. But I know Renee didn't really parent very well, obviously. And so she has that just always being supported and everything you do is great aspect too.
That narcissism. Yep. Interesting.
Super weird, but yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, so Harry is a product of his upbringing, and the reason that he had this upbringing was because Dumbledore stuck him there because of this magic spell and the love from his mom, but it wasn't it was a misguided decision for Dumbledore to make.
Absolutely. So next week we're going to talk more specifically about Harry and Dudley.
Oh, Dudley.
So we'll get into more of this. Those were all my sporadic thoughts on the Dursleys as of right now.
That was great.
So
I loved it.
Hopefully maybe you guys think about them a little differently,
tell us what you think of it. I mean, we come from a certain point of view, and we have a lot of the same ideas and thoughts about things as each other, so there isn't a lot of like counterpoint in our discussions. But if you would love to give us some sort of a counterpoint, we're welcoming you to do that. Please do.
Absolutely.
I mean, whether or not we agree with you is another thing, but we would love to share it. So let us know.
Yeah.
Okay,
well, thank you guys for remembering Harry Potter with us.
yes, thank you so much.
Let's go create something magical together.
All right, love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.